Thank you very much. So yeah, there are a few technical presentations this week about mobile and sort of the technology around mobile. So I thought I would spend some time telling you about some of the experiences we picked up building our own mobile operator over the past year or two. So I'll start with a bit about who we are. We're Simwood, and... Higher? Shall I shout? You could come to the front. So we're Simwood. We're a UK wholesale carrier. Been around since 1996, and we've got around 730 wholesale customers, ranging from hosted PBX platforms right up to 3 different mobile operators themselves as customers of ours. Our main product are UK numbering, origination, and termination. And a big growth area in our business recently has been virtual interconnect, which is where we host SS7 interconnects for other telcos. And the reason we can do that is because we run our own national SS7 and IP network. Now, we're very proud of our network. We've got point of presence in 11 data centers around the UK, and we co-own the fiber between a lot of those sites. We think that's essential for providing a high-quality service, and it's certainly proven itself worthy of the expense we put into it time and time again. Now, I first met Simon, the founder of Simwood, here at Kamailio World 2 years ago, I think, and I joined the company a year ago, and my first goal was to build Simwood Mobile. And Simwood Mobile is about taking all of the key components of mobile, the SIM card, the fulfillment and provisioning of that SIM card, numbering, voice, text, data, porting, roaming, all the individual components that make up a mobile network or a mobile service. We take those, separate those out, and give them almost like giving our customers the nuts and bolts they need to build their own mobile operator. And we do that using technologies that our customers already understand. So our customers don't know anything about HLRs or anything in the mobile space. They understand SIP and HTTP. So they already do this every single day. So we give them access to the mobile services through an HTTP API or our portal. All the voice comes over SIP, text is over HTTP or SMPP, and data over L2TP. So it's all technologies they already understand and they already work with. And when we first decided we were going to do this, we thought we needed to go and become an MVNO. Now, an MVNO is, as I'm sure many of you are aware, in most cases, an MVNO is a marketing and billing company. They don't actually operate the core of their network. They rely on their MNO partner to do that. If you want to become an MVNO, you have to go to either an MNO or an MVNE or an MVNA, all acronyms up on there. But basically, the MVNE or MVNA will make an MVNO for you. They basically just stamp them out and ship them out the door. If you want to do anything different with them, it costs a huge amount of money and a huge amount of time. And they're not particularly good at doing anything out of the ordinary. The other thing about MVNOs is all the successful ones start off with an existing brand. They start off with a supermarket or a fixed line provider or something like that. They've got a big brand, they've got a big consumer brand, and they've got lots of customers lined up. Or they're targeting specific niche areas, such as ethnic MVNOs or expat services and things like that. When you become an MVNO, you're also competing with your supplier. So your MNO is often selling to consumers on the high street less than they're selling to you. So it's a bit of an awkward area to get into, especially if you want to do it wholesale like we do. Now, the real killer is if you go to an MVNE or an MVNA, they will charge you, in our experience, between 50 and 100 grand just to get started before you've even shipped a SIM. That's in pounds, but obviously that translates to a lot of money in any currency. So we decided the way we needed to sit wasn't as an MVNO, it was as an MVNE. And so we decided to build our own mobile operator. That's us, building our own mobile operator. So the first thing we decided was about spectrum. We can't go out and buy spectrum. That's ridiculous. You can get guard band, you can get little bits of spectrum here and there, but you can't go out and buy it. And if you've got guard band, it's great for small cells and localized deployments, but it's not going to build you a national network. So you have to go out and get something from a main MNO. So you get a radio access network agreement. So we went out and looked for a radio access network agreement. And once you've got that, you still need a mobile core, because that's just the towers and the backhaul. You still need a mobile core, HLRs, and all those sort of things. And if you go to an open source project, and there are a few out there, you can build these, and it's very affordable. And you go to your mobile operator, and you say, we've got this mobile core, we plug it into your radio network. And they look at it and say, no, we don't know what that is. So what you end up with is having to buy big boxes off the shelf and build them, things from Cisco, ZTE, people like that. They're inflexible boxes, and they cost a lot of money. So we partnered with an American mobile network who were very experienced in building cores to build us a mobile core based on these boxes, because the radio access network that we had wouldn't let us just plug in open source stuff, which is a real shame, because it would be much more flexible and affordable to do if we could do that. So we arranged a radio access network agreement, we built our mobile core, and it started to look a bit like this, which I was quite happy with. Everything under our control. To make it go live into production, we just needed a few things from our local regulator. So we asked for these things. They're basic resources, global titles, point codes, all that sort of stuff that every telco needs. We also needed some mobile numbers, because mobile numbers are separate in the UK. And we need an MNC. So we asked for the mobile numbers, and they said, sorry, I was a slide behind. This is our regulator. This is how they behave. So we asked for the mobile numbers, and they said, you're not a mobile operator, so you can't have any mobile numbers. So we argued with them for the better part of a year about whether or not we were a mobile operator. Eventually, we got mobile numbers, which is just the start of that. That's still a long process. But we got these mobile numbers, and we still need an MNC. With an MNC, you create IMSIs, which is the identity of a subscriber on a mobile network. So you do kind of need it. It's quite an important thing. And they said, you don't need an MNC unless you have spectrum, which is wrong and quite annoying, quite frustrating. So you also need it for roaming agreements and all the other things you need to operate a mobile network. So we had to go out and get IMSIs from someone else, which adds yet another layer of complexity. It adds another layer of cost, and it's just shouldn't really be necessary. But these are the sort of things you have to deal with if you want to start something up. Now, there are benefits to getting IMSIs from someone else, and that is you get to use their roaming agreements, you get to use their interconnects and things like that. But we want our own ones of those, and as long as we don't have an MNC, we can't go and get those. So every day we don't have an MNC is another day we're still not able to put together our own roaming agreements and put together our own interconnect deals. So that's the regulator trying to stop us launching. And what about the other operators? You have to work with other operators, because a mobile operator sitting in a little island on their own is completely useless to everyone. So the other operators are very similar to the regulators in that they don't like dealing with us. So you have to data fill these mobile numbers. So we got the mobile numbers from the regulator. We have to tell all the other operators about them. We do that through various methods, but basically it involves talking to them, telling them all about them. And eventually, they start to data fill the numbers, and eventually calls start to come in on those numbers from other operators. And what you find is they come in, and they're rated completely differently from every other mobile network. So if there's a bundle offering on their subscribers, 1,000 minutes a month, for example, the caller gets a message saying, this number's not included in your bundle, it will be charged at some ridiculous rate. So that's another challenge. You have to get it in bundle. You have to get it rated at a sensible rate. And we can control that in some respects with our termination rate in the UK. But it's another process of talking to the mobile operators, and they really don't like doing anything. And once they put you in bundle, which they will eventually, after a year or so of talking to them, they can take you out at any time. So they can do a rate update, and they can say, oh yeah, we don't know who these people are, or we don't like something they've done, take them out of bundle. And when your numbers are out of bundle, that pretty much kills you from a commercial point of view because no one wants to use the service that's going to cost their friends extra money to call them. So as well as that, you need porting, so you can get numbers in from other operators. To get porting, you have to get an established porting agreement with each of the operators. You have to go through interop testing with each of the operators. It's all slightly different. The process is different in every operator. And they move at a pace that is glacial. The regulators force them to get into porting agreements. They're obligated to do so, but there's no timescale in which they have to set up these porting agreements. So they slow that down as much as possible. So that's another challenge in getting started. We also had some really weird issues pop up. A lot of it's around numbering. When we tried to publish our numbers on what's called an IR21, which is an interconnect document. You publish this, and all the other operators get it, and they know how to route those numbers. And when we sent it out, you send it out to all the operators around the world that you have agreements with. So there's quite a few. And a random one in Greece came back and said, we already route those numbers to that mobile network over there on another overseas location. So we then had to go through and find out who they were and contact them before we could use our numbers, because we couldn't issue our IR21 until we'd fixed that. So we had to talk to 2 mobile networks that we'd never really spoken to before, one of which we didn't even have any agreements with. We had to find them, find the people who are responsible for the IR21s, find out how to get them to change it, wait for them to reissue their documents, send that out to all the mobile networks they interconnect with before we could even do ours. So it's not a case of just switching it on. It's a case of waiting for everyone else to do their stuff, fix their problems where they'd messed up and had nothing to do with us. So that was another sort of 3 to 4 months just delay and bureaucracy there. But with all of those problems that we had, we've persevered through, and earlier this month we launched the first stage of our mobile product in the UK. And we're quite excited about this because hopefully for everyone else who wants to become a mobile operator or offer a mobile service in the UK, it just became incredibly easy to do so. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it takes to set up Simwood Mobile and get up and running. So I'll start with this. This is our portal. I'll mention a bit about our portal. It's the web interface for all of our services. It's fairly new, but it has no special access to our platform. It is entirely based upon our customer API. The developer that wrote this was brand new to the business when he started on this, and we gave him absolutely no access. He didn't have any SSH access to our servers. He didn't know anything about our database schemas or anything like that. All he had was the same documentation as our customers have, and he built all of the interface for us. Now, mobile has just been added to it, and as you can see there, I've got 2 mobile SIMs. They're identified by the ICC ID, which is the serial number of the SIM card. And if we want to just get a SIM and put it in a phone, it won't really do anything now because it hasn't been configured. So we go into the configuration of that second SIM, and we can see we've got profiles for each SIM. For voice, we've got 4 profiles. Managed, which is where all of the calls coming out of that SIM go straight out through one of our SIP trunks, and you get all of our fraud controls, all of our billing management, all of the other things that we provide on our standard SIP trunks to all of our customers, you get on that SIM card. And you can have multiple SIM cards on one SIP trunk. So that's managed. We've got SIP handoff, which is where all of the calls that are made from that SIM are sent to a SIP URI that you specify, so it goes straight to your SIP platform. And then we've got SIP registration, which is really exciting. That's where our network will register to your SIP device or your PBX, whatever you're running, as a SIP client. So you don't have to tell your PBX anything about this new mobile service. It just sees another SIP client, one SIP client for each SIM card. And then we've got a hybrid mode, which is where this SIM is configured here. And as you can see there, I've specified a trunk and an endpoint. And any numbers longer than 6 digits will go out through the trunk. So standard numbers will go out through a trunk and be terminated to the PSTN, straight through our SS7 switches. But anything 6 digits or less will be sent to your SIP URI, which I've specified there. It's pretty straightforward. % dialed will be replaced with the number, and you get all those calls. That's really good for things like convergence plays. So you can have extension dialing, but still have calls going straight out without hitting your PBX. SMS has a similar 3 profiles, managed, handoff via HTTP, or SMPP, depending on your choice, and then a hybrid version, which works exactly the same way as the voice one. Data has 4 profiles, which is where it gets a little bit interesting. We've got managed with and without NAT. So we've got managed with NAT and managed with fixed IP. That's straight internet traffic out through our IP network. And as you saw before, we've got a pretty good IP network, so we've got a lot of good connections there. So it's really good quality internet access. And we'll do static IP if people need it. Where it gets really exciting is when we do L2TP handoff. If you run your own IP network, you can have an L2TP LNS that our GGSNs will connect directly to, and you can use your IP addresses in your IP network to provide connectivity to those SIMs. And then we've got a private network option as well, which is where all the SIMs are walled off in their own private network. They can talk to each other, but they can't talk to the internet. And that's really useful for M2M or private network scenarios. But this all handles traffic coming out of the phone, but it doesn't handle traffic coming in. So we need to do something to get traffic in, and that's really simple for voice. It's simply a SIP URI of the ICCID at out.simwood.com. Obviously, we don't expect anyone to ever type that in. That's something for you to use in your PBX systems or your SIP platform to get calls out to your SIM. You can also use the SIP registration, as I mentioned before, which will just act like any other SIP endpoint. So as soon as you send a call to it, it traverses through our VoIP network, through our mobile network, and out to the SIM. But you can also use our numbering API as well. We provide mobile numbers, geographic numbers, and we have porting as well, so you can port in numbers from other operators. And that will give you an interface like this, or, as I said before, our API. And you just select a SIM endpoint, choose the ICC ID of the SIM, and calls to that number will now route to that SIM. You've got a lot of flexibility in there as well, so you can have multiple endpoints, simultaneous dialing. You can mix and match SIMs, SIP clients, and other PSTN destinations to create quite advanced routing without needing your own switch or software. So that, in a nutshell, is how easy it is to configure Simwood Mobile. But we've also tried to make it easy to get started with Simwood Mobile. And we did that with a developer pack. So as I said before, MVNEs will charge you sort of 50 to 100 grand just to get started before you've even shipped a SIM. And they also tie you into lengthy contracts as well. So we put together this developer pack that gives you 5 SIMs, access to everything you just saw, full control over the traffic on those 5 SIMs, access to the API, the portal, mobile numbering, porting. Everything you just saw, you get on those 5 SIMs for £250 one-off, which is around 350 euros, and no ongoing commitment. So there's no lengthy contract. You get those SIMs, you do what you want with them, you build your product, and that's it. If you want to go into production, that's pretty straightforward. £6,000 a year commit, which is split up into £500 a month minimum spend. So that's not a service charge, that's just spending on SIM cards. And that's a 12-month commit. So you get no commitment to develop your product. Once you're ready to go to market, you've got a pretty low commitment compared to what the MVNEs are offering. It's great for startups, great for proof of concepts. And yeah, I think it's just a really exciting product. It's one I wanted to buy many years ago, and now it's available. We've started shipping developer packs probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think it was. And we've started getting a lot of feedback from customers about what they're planning to do. It's all hosted PBX integration, mobile call recording, smart numbering, and things like that. That's what a developer pack looks like, as tweeted by one of our customers. And that is essentially Simwood Mobile today. In the future, it will grow, and we look at launching in other European countries and the US. But that's where we are today. If you can think of a better idea than those 3 that are suggested up there, I urge you to have a look at getting a developer pack. If you're not in the UK and you think we could launch this in your country, come and talk to us, because we're looking at launching in other countries very soon. But that is a brief introduction to Simwood Mobile. You can find out more about that on the blog or on our MVNO website. Thank you. Ole. Yeah, I wish we had roaming set up in Germany so that I could demonstrate it all to you. but we don't have roaming just yet. We're still working on those roaming agreements.
Yeah, but we have it, so if you want to do it.
That's
Have
not
you got your API ready?
marketing, right?
We can sell you an API, James. Has anyone got any questions?
Other questions about mobiles. Is it easy, special with the regulation, right? Everywhere. You want one?
What's your opinion on the small servers we see, like OpenBTS, 8BTS, and those? Where does those fit in? If I want to set up my own GSM radio in my building, how does that plug into the Simwood experience?
That's a good question. We wanted to be able to plug in open source projects, small cells, whether open source or not. As it stands at the moment, when we don't have our own MNC and we don't have any spectrum, it's very difficult to do that. Once we get our own MNC from the regulator, and that's something we will do, it becomes a bit easier for us to allow other people to plug into our core. And then there's just the issue of spectrum. If you're doing it in the UK and you need to do something like that in a small building as a research project, you can apply for a license from the regulator. Anything else, you can look at things like guard band licensing, spectrum, and things like that to do small cells. And we really want to allow people to plug in and operate their own micro radio, or macro, not macro, the other one, pico and nano cells on top of our network, because it's not something people have access to at the moment with other networks. But at the moment, we can't do that because we don't have an MNC, so we don't have full control over our IMSIs, and we don't have any access to spectrum. If we get guard band spectrum or we get access to guard band spectrum, that'll be something we definitely look at offering.
Yeah. Very good, Dan.
Thank you very much.
But as earlier said, very much a sales presentation. We're a technical conference in here. Can you tell us about the infrastructure, about how this all hangs together, and what we can do in terms of integrating this with your other products?
So I'm happy to address the commercial side of it. I didn't want to do yet another technical presentation because I think there are people here who are better suited to do that. What I wanted to do is give a bit of a real-world example of some of the problems you have when you try to implement the mobile network in the real world. Because I've had OpenBTS running for a while now on a research license, and I've been playing with it for quite a while now. But you can't really do anything in the real world with it unless you interoperate with other operators and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to just give you some of our real world experience with that. And yeah, it is a sales pitch because we're a company and we'd really like to sell things. But I'm quite passionate about this product, and I think I'm really excited to get people using it. I know you've got a dev pack that you paid for. There's no freebies. So I'm really excited to see what you do with it. In terms of the network architecture, how it all hangs together, I can go back quite a few slides and see that. Those of you who are familiar with networks, mobile networks, will understand that that is a 3G network, not a 4G or LTE network. Everyone here will probably be talking about 3G, 4G, LTE, and even 5G. But with what we could buy that we could plug into our radio access network agreement, 3G was the only option for us, and we're looking at LTE as a future option with either the same radio provider or a different one. But that's pretty much how it hangs together. It's not the most technically complete diagram. It's more of an overview.
Yeah,
but I'm more than happy to talk in depth afterwards about how it all goes together. I could talk to you for hours about how it's all hung together.
Yeah, then it's the right man for technical questions on mobile technologies, I'm sure about. So further questions or discussion, Dan will be around here, and Simon as well. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.